All right, guys, how you guys doing tonight? It's Tuesday night. Time for another show, the Marvin Bennett Jr. Show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tonight's guest, we're gonna have Judith Hollister, as well as Kevin Burgman, as usual. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for another opportunity of prayer. We thank you, God, for waking us up this morning, or else to see another day. We actually got that this episode, it will help bring healing information for people that's going through. And most of all, we praise you and we thank you for these stories and the testimony. But most importantly, we thank you for the victory. We ask all these things and count it done in Jesus' mighty and matchless name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Before we get started, I just wanted to give a special shout out to the Rankers family. You know, we had a service yesterday for my fallen soldier cousin. So, you know, Michelle, kids, little Earl, baby girls, know that we love you. We're here for you. I thank you guys for all your support, your prayers. And I just ask you guys that you continue to keep the family lifted in prayer. Earl, we love you. We miss you. And our lives are different because of knowing you. So we thank you for all that you did and everything that you instilled into us and sold into us. With that being said, I'm excited about tonight's show. I'm not as upbeat as I normally am. I've been going through a lot lately, but God is still worthy of the praise, and I'm in a good state of mind. I'm in a good place, and I'm proud of this night's show. Tonight we're going to be actually talking about addiction and recovery. That's something that's kind of personal to me. I've had my own struggles, you know, so I kind of wanted to get this show out here where we could kind of talk about addiction, recovery, you know, the road to recovery, steps that you've taken. How do we get to where we are now? Because everybody's path isn't the same. Everybody's journey isn't the same. So we're gonna open up. I'm gonna open up the floor to Jude and let Jude start. And guys, as usual, if you have any questions for the panel or comments, please put them in the Facebook on the live feed, and I'll try to get to them. So with that right there, Jude, tell the people who you are and tell them a little bit about yourself.
All right. So my name is Jude Johnson Hossler, and when Marvin asked me if I would do his show, I actually watched it a couple of times. I said absolutely. Sometimes when you're talking about addiction, many people shy away from that. But I can say that that's one of the biggest things that God did for me is he brought me out of addiction. So whenever someone asks, I don't hesitate to say yes, because the bottom line is if it hadn't been for God doing that for me, I don't know where I would be. So I'm going to back up a little bit, tell you a little bit about myself. So I grew up in Asbury Park, New Jersey, in a town, a real small town, 1 square mile, but absolutely that town. It was that town that was really an awesome town, but we had our struggles, you know. And so I grew up in the projects. And when I was growing up, the projects was different. We had a really, we had a community. We really did. And to this day, any of us, if anything happens to us, happens to our family members, or there's loss, we support one another, or someone is married, we support one another. And so I went off to college, you know, growing up, of course, I grew up in church my entire life. And so I went off to college. And when I was in college, I believe about my junior year, 21 years old, I lost my sister. And my sister died to breast cancer. And I really did not know how to deal with it. My sister was very close to me. She was like she was much older than me. So she was like a mother, an aunt, a friend. She was like my everything. And I didn't know how to deal with it. And so I'm in college, silently suffering. I'm 8 hours away from home. I'm always finding myself in, you know, just in tears, dealing with the loss of a sister. And so I didn't seek any type of counseling around it. What I did do is, like, when I look back now, and I threw myself into shopping. just shopping, making sure I was always fly. And, a few years moved past that time. And I think about 24 years old, I decided to move back home to New Jersey. And I worked as in the hospital. At that time, I did lab work. So I worked in the hospital and came home, and a lot of my friends, it was at that time when cocaine, crack wasn't there yet, had just like ravished our communities. People were freebasing. And so I come home thinking that I'm going to change things for my friends. And by hanging around them, encouraging them not to do this and not to do that. And before you know it, I was in the midst of it. I at first started by selling it, and then I just started using it. And so I used for 4 months, and I found out that I was pregnant, and I couldn't stop. And I was always the type of person that was real hardworking, really, did well in school, had a lot of dreams for myself. I actually wanted to be a doctor. And so I found out that I was pregnant, and I couldn't stop. And so it took me a couple of months, and I ended up going into, I shared with one of the nurses that I worked with what was going on with me. And I went into treatment for 28 days. And I stayed abstinent actually for about 15 months. But the bottom line was it was abstinent, wasn't recovery. I really, even at that point, hadn't returned back to church. I just kind of stopped. And so I had that 15 months, and then I had no particular situation, but I just started like going to the clubs and thinking I could hang out and, still be like that, never touched my life. And it didn't work that way. I drank, and right away when I drank, I returned back to using cocaine. And so I went through another 4 months, but this 4 months was different. I still had an apartment. I had a job. I actually had a couple of jobs, made real good money, but every dime I made, I spent. And so I just see myself going down so quickly. But what I can remember is that God was always talking to me. I knew I wasn't staying there. He reminded me that no matter where I went, he was there with me, and that I was going to come out of that place. And so it was 4 months. And I remember there was a young lady that I was good friends with. She begged me to go to church with her, and I was drunk. I had been drinking. I was high. And I'm like, I'm not going to church like that. I grew up in church. I'm not going to disrespect God that way. No, I wasn't. And she told me that she was not going to leave until I went with her. And she wouldn't leave. She would not leave my house. And I went to church, tore up. And I remember it was around Mother's Day. And it was 1991. And I went with her, and they prayed over me. And I cried like a baby. And I left there ready to turn it around, but I still didn't quite want to give it up yet. So I went through about 2 weeks, because my clean date is June the 13th. So I'd say that was Mother's Day. I went about 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month, just off and on trying to get high. And then but things was happening. I remember walking in a real bad rainstorm, and I thought I was going to die out in the storm. And I'm like, God, please don't let my mother find me with drugs on me. And so I just finally just made up my mind. And I went to a detox for like 5 days. And they kind of let me in, because they don't detox you from cocaine. And so they just let me in because I begged them so bad. And when I left there, my mind was so made up, and I knew it was done. I knew I was finished. And so fast forward, so I have 29 years in recovery, and I have been through so much. I lost my entire family. I'm the last one. I'm the youngest child, and my mother, father, and everyone is gone. And you know what? That was not enough for me to return back to substance use. And God just did a mighty work with me. Like I said, I was pregnant, and I changed my work, and I went back to school, and I actually work with women that have substance use disorder that are pregnant. And I could sometimes, when their mothers call me, I don't always tell my story, but there are times that God tugs on me to tell it. And when I tell it, I feel their pain, because I knew what my pain was trying to stop and what my parents felt. And so, you know what? One of the things I did mention, that I wanted to be a doctor. And I thought that addiction took that from me. I really let it take it from me, because the bottom line is I have a couple of master's degrees. And I've spent and I don't say that to brag, but I've spent so much time in school that I have spent enough time to be a doctor. But I thought that that dream was gone from me. And so I'm just, I work in my church as a minister, and I'm just doing God's work. And like, no matter what, when someone tells me or asks me to speak about addiction, I jump right in and do it, because it is an honor that God pulled me from that place. And I have to share it. I have to tell other people that there is a way out, and that no matter what, when you go through things, doesn't mean that you have to go back. You don't ever have to go back, because the bottom line is, you know what the outcome of that is. The outcome is death. And many people go through different channels. They may go to jail, they may go to institutions, but the outcome is that the enemy wants to kill you, and he wanted to kill me. And I am the light in my family. I am a light in my community. I'm a light in my community. And because you can't see any resemblance of it on my life. But the bottom line is, I have an obligation to share with someone else that it could happen to anyone. I was never molested. I had both my parents at home. And like I said, I lived in the projects, but the projects was a different project back then. Okay. So I grew up with everything that I needed and desired in life. We actually thought we would have money, because we had the things that we wanted and needed. And I just, I'm going to say this. And like, I have a teacher in graduate school. He used to say that your genetics, so who I was as far as my parents or my genetics, my genes, is what loads the gun. Your psyche, which is your mind, points the trigger, but your environment pulls the trigger. And so me going back into that community where my community was changing was tough for me, because what happens is, I believe that the enemy is always trying to find that perfect storm. He's always trying to find a way to destroy your life. And so it might be the loss of a family member. It may be divorce of a family. It may be, someone watching addiction in their family. It's always many different things. But you can have someone that lived in a household that addiction was prevalent, but they do well. It's about the choices that we make. And so that was my choice. I would never change it for nothing in the world, because it made me the woman that I am today. I am strong because I went through that, because it sharpened me. It changed me. It humbled me. It just did so many things to me. The thing I would never say, if God says, is there anything that you would take away? That would not be it. That would be the one thing that I would keep, because it changed my life. And so, Marvin, I think that your cousin, did he join in with us?
No, he's not on yet. He's still having a hard time getting in.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, but I'm glad you kind of went there, because I can remember when we met, like that was our bond. We met in church, and then we got this thing, especially when we found out here in Carolina, we got another Jersey in. So it's like Jersey love is deep. But I remember like not knowing your story, so to speak, but there was always this aura or this presence about you. And I was never sure what it was. I knew it wasn't just the Jersey connection. And I think you had shared something one night. You kind of tested. You didn't really get into the depths of it, but you talked about how you was an addict for years. And I'm like, huh? No. And then you say how old you were, and I was like, you're to me, you're the consummate example of, how we say in church a lot of times. I thank God that I don't look like what I've been through. You know, when I see you, that's the first thing that I always think. Like, yo, God, you're awesome because she doesn't look like what she's been through. You know, and you talked about how you lost your family. Can you go into a little bit about that? Like, what was it like to be out there? You know, and at the same time, like I say, in a previous episode, I talked about how I had tried to attempt suicide multiple times, and it's almost to the same degree where you have people that you could call, you have people that you could go to, just like your friend. Hey, no, I'm not leaving without you. You know what I mean? We have those people in our lives. What do you feel like, other than the enemy, but what do you feel like is that big hindrance to why we don't tap into that?
Well, I think for me, when I first lost my sister to breast cancer, I was in college, right? So I'm there with, even though I had friends, I still almost felt like they were strangers to me. Um, so I didn't really talk about the pain that I was experiencing. I was trying to put my big girl face on. I was making my family think that I was fine, that I was strong, and I was going to get through it. And I really thought I was getting through it. I would break down and cry. But when I moved back to New Jersey, and at that time I moved back to Jersey, my parents were 40 years old when they had me. So my
Okay.
parents were older parents, right? So my parents were the ages of my friends' grandmothers, and so and my siblings were all much older than me. So when I moved back to New Jersey, my mother and father and all of my other siblings were still living, except for the one I lost, my sister Carolyn. And so I think that why people don't reach out to people, of course, sometimes we in the Black community, sometimes we think that counseling is a sign of weakness.
Mhm.
And so I didn't seek counseling. No one offered it to me. No one suggested that I do it. But when I was 30 years old, my brother died. And so I knew that my brother had HIV. And so I knew that my brother was sick, and that was at a time when people were dying very quickly from HIV. And so they didn't have the same medication. So what I did was I saw, and at that point I've been a counselor myself. I'm a therapist and have been a counselor for 28 years. So I was a counselor, and I knew it was important that I go get myself some counseling. I got there and I talked about me, my brother being sick, being afraid that I didn't want to go through the same thing that I went through with my other sister. The therapist even offered me to see a doctor and give me medication or sleeping medication. I didn't need any of that. Not saying that medication isn't fine, because I do have people that I see that need medication, but it wasn't what I needed. I just needed to talk through it so that I had an out, so I had something to express my feelings, so that when my brother died, and when my brother died, I had a lot of support. I had all of the people, because I had connected myself to a fellowship. I went to NA, and I go to NA. So I connected myself to a bunch of friends and my tribe showed up for me. So I think the difference is that you got to have a tribe, and you can't get that tribe once you're you have to build that tribe, and that once you're there in a place where you're feeling like you want to give up, you got to reach out. You got to call before you fall. You have to do the reaching out. But you have people around you too that know something's not right with Jude. So when I went through it with my father died the following year. I just did the same thing. I did what worked. And so I just lost my last sister, who was, my sister had Down syndrome. She is 70 years old. I took care of my sister and my family. I stepped up to take care of my family. And so when my sister died, it was just like, just letting her go to rest, finding a peace to be all right with it. So that's what I would say, having a tribe, having a community of people that you reach out to.
And then you kind of talked about it earlier too. Is like a big part plays is the environment that we're in. Sometimes it's kind of hard to remove ourselves from those situations. Or what do you feel as though, like I said, everybody's different. I never really went that way as far as drugs. My thing was weed. I never really tried I was too scared, because I can even remember being in high school. The mind is a powerful thing. It's mind over matter. It's to me. And the reason I say that is because I can remember being in high school, and I would have friends. They would drink, they would smoke. I'm sitting here like, yo, man, what is you doing? Like, we athletes. That's like the dumbest thing ever. I would never put that stuff in my body. I care too much about sports. And when I fast forward years later, and now I'm like this weed head, it's like, wow, like how did you go from one extreme to the far left, to the total opposite? And a lot of it is like mind over matter. I'm the type of individual, I don't like to feel like anything has control over me. Whether it's spirituality, not I don't want anything to supersede me making decisions for myself. I don't want to feel like I got tired of feeling like, well, as soon as I wake up, I gotta get high. Like I'm not doing it because I want to. Now it's just become a part of daily routine. And a lot of times it's hard to break that cycle. So for you, some people give their, like you talked about how you give your life to Christ. What did you find that when you rededicated your life to Christ, was it a hard, like what was that? Was it a struggle at all on a daily basis? Like, was it the cold sweats? I want to go get a hit, or did he just do it for you just like that?
When I surrendered, it was done. It was done. But it wasn't just done without the work. There's footwork. So that's why when you say mind over matter, we have, many of us may have in our genes, you might have great grandfather might have been an alcoholic, or your grandmother, it's so very often it's in the genes, and it might not even be drugs. It might be gambling. It may be alcohol.
Absolutely.
It may be a number of different things, right? And so the bottom line is sin. All of it's sin. It's waiting to just mess you up. And so you have to put yourself in a situation where you put yourself in different environments. Like I said, I go to meetings. So the meetings wasn't what changed me, but I needed to have some new friends. I needed to not connect to the people that I was connecting to when I was doing the wrong thing, right? So it's just like those of us that go to church, we hang out with church folks, and then we still, so there is a connection where you connect yourself up to people that are doing the same thing that you're doing. So if you connect yourself to folks that are getting high, even if you're trying to change your life, not going to. Yeah. It's only a matter of time where you find yourself you keep, some people will get 5 days, 10 days, even if they get a year. You connect yourself to the old people. It's just a matter of time before you go back to the same old thing. Mm-hmm. It's the same playground.
Yeah. And like you said, there is an addictive gene And like it doesn't always pertain to drugs like that, like you said. I mean, I can remember like one of my main addictions in my early 20s was I had a real bad gambling addiction. Like I gambled all day, every day. I went to work I went to work just to gamble. Like even on my days off, I was at my place of work gambling, and it literally took me losing my job to stop. But it was a rush. It was something that I didn't know I didn't know where it came from or why was it so strong. Then I found out, my dad, he had a gambling addiction at one particular time. And it's like that light bulb goes off. So, sometimes we got to be careful of those seeds that we sow. You know what I mean? Because there is a such thing as generational curses, just like there's a such thing as generational blessings. You can rewrite the narrative, but you can't do it on your own. Like you said, for some people it may be a therapist. Me, it was a personal encounter with God Himself that really got me to change my life and get started in the right direction. And I'm still waiting on my cousin, but for me, it was the day that changed my life. I'll never forget it. I was my oldest son. He was a baby, and I was at my apartment, and it was just me and him. And at the time, I had my routine. My ex-wife, she would get up, she would have her class or whatever the case may be. I was at the airport working when I wasn't off. On my days off, okay, it's time to roll 5 because I don't want to keep rolling over and over again. I might as well just roll 5 at a time. Okay, it's time to smoke because I'm about to watch Spider-Man, and it's time to watch these different shows, Judge Mathis and whatever. And it just became this daily routine. And one day, as I was sitting in the living room, I had just put my son to sleep. I'm getting ready to start my session for the day. And I had a 6 CD player, changer that played 60 CDs. So you could put 6 CDs in there. And I had Notorious B.I.G., Ready to Die. I had Nas in there, Illmatic, and Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt. Those are only 3 CDs that I have in there. And I'm going to put it on random. So I'm going to let the player mix it up for me. So I grabbed my lighter, grabbed my supplies, I sit in my chair. And the very first song that came on was No Weapon Formed Against Me Shall Prosper. It won't work. And like, what's going on? Like, Fred is my guy, but I don't have Fred Hammond in the CD player. So now I got to get up. I go open up all the CDs just to see. Sure enough, just those 3 in there. All right, I'm tripping. I ain't even got started. I ain't even high yet, so I'm really tripping. And I go to sit back down, go to light up again. Same exact thing happens, Jude. Like something not right. So I literally go pull the plug from the wall. The clock is off now. It's completely off. It's not even plugged in anymore. I don't need no music. I'm about to get my session started. And as I sat there, the song came on again, with the radio not even being plugged in. And I literally said, God, if you want me that bad, you got my attention. And I really had a Jacob moment that day in my apartment where I had a real conversation with God, because it was like at the particular time I didn't want to live for Christ. I didn't want that lifestyle. I didn't want the responsibility. I didn't want I didn't want that life. I didn't want that. I just didn't want it. And one of the things that I did, I remember praying vividly, and I share with people because God has no respect to person. And if he did it for me, he could do it for you, just like he could do it for the next person. But one of the things that I did pray with God, I was real in my prayer to God today. I said, God, I love you, but I don't want to live for you. I know who you are, but I don't want to live for you. I said, but if you give me the desire to live for you, like, and I really believe me praying those words changed my life forever, because I didn't have the desire, but I asked him for the desire. Next thing I knew, like my life was like a complete 360 within like 2 months. And I couldn't believe it. But it all started with a place of brokenness and a place of realness. And that's one thing I try to tell people is, whether it is addiction, whether it is marital problems, whether it's parental problems, whether it's work problems, no matter what the problem is, there is nothing that you can't sincerely take to God, and he's going to just abandon you. You know what I mean? It's just like, we're parents. I tell people all the time, we love to do stuff for our children, but if the only time I ever hear from you is to ask for $5, or I need a ride to the mall, or I need a ride to my girlfriend's house or my boy house, or whatever the case may be, and there's never no reciprocation on over problem, Daddy, I appreciate you, or thank you for the ride, mommy, stuff like that. If everything is always a constant need, that turns us off as a parent. And whether we believe it or not, guess what? God has feelings too. We can't just keep coming to him when we're in need. That's not what he's for. But people, I've been seeing it a lot lately. I've been hearing it for years, but I've been seeing it a lot more in posts. Don't consider delay denial. And it's like that with God. Sometimes we pray these prayers and we're seeking God for an answer, but we want them right away. It doesn't work like that, because I honestly tell people, there may be times where you actually feel desperate and you're longing and you're loaning to get that answer. But if you be honest, if each individual be honest, if I can guarantee you, if you prayed and asked God for a particular thing and he didn't give it to you right then, when he did give it to you, if you be honest with yourself, I'll guarantee you, you needed it more when he gave it to you than when it was that you needed it. Then when you asked for it, rather. You see what I'm saying? God makes no mistakes. So, I had a conversation with one of my cousins one day, and he grew up in church just like me, musician, and we were having a candid conversation about that. He's like, man, I'm really thinking about getting my life together and coming on in. You know what I'm saying? Once I stop smoking, because we were smoking a blunt while we having this conversation, And once I get it together, I'm gonna come on in. And I said, if you could stop smoking, right? If we could stop sleeping with women that we not married to, we could stop fornicating. If we could do X, Y, Z, what would we need God for? Like, what would we need him for if we could get ourselves together? And I think that's a big misconception that a lot of people have when it comes to spirituality and church, so per se. Like you said, I'm not going to no church drunk. Like, we have these stigmas that we can't go to church a certain type of way. When I tell people, that's the perfect time for you to go, because all church should be is a spiritual hospital. You see what I'm saying? You don't see people go to check themselves in the hospital when they feeling good. You go to the hospital when there's something wrong or you're not sure what's wrong. You don't feel right. That's when you go to the hospital. And I think we have to look at church the same way. It's a spiritual hospital. So bring all your kids, leave them at the altar, because as we expose ourselves to those weaknesses, to those strongholds, all we help God do is prove himself to us. Because The scripture says, my strength is made perfect in where?
Perfect.
In
Yes.
your weakness. So if I'm never weak, if I'm never down, he can't prove himself to be God. He can't prove himself to be a deliverer. And like sometimes we make it harder for ourselves. Like I always knew I was supposed to preach. I was supposed to be a man of God, not necessarily a pastor, so to speak, but a man that God has entrusted with a word for people that can change their lives. So I tried to run. I tried to run from it. I just tried to run from it. I want to drink all day. I want to smoke all day because he can't use me if I'm in that state.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, God came to me clear as day while I was drunk and said, listen, there is no place that you could ever go that I can't reach you. You see what I'm saying? But you have to, it's about your heart. It's about what you decide to do with this here. It's about what you decide to do with the opportunity to give you. Now, I got you. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, but I think I thank God for it because there are two words, grace and mercy. They're two of my favorite words because I might not, I know I shouldn't be sitting here today. You know what I mean? I know I should be, or I feel as though I should be dead in my grave on numerous occasions. But for some reason, God had mercy on me. And I thank him for those experiences because who better to talk about deliverance than somebody actually that's delivered? You know, I tell people all the time, if you order a pizza online, until that pizza gets there, it's not delivered yet. And I think a lot of times in spirituality, which would be a whole nother show, but I think we get those two mixed up. There's a difference between salvation and deliverance.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Or sometimes it comes overnight. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a process for each and every one of us. But they are two different things. You know, like I say with that pizza, you could call it in and you can watch the little bars online. But until that pizza gets there, it's not delivered yet. But once you're delivered, now, okay, now you know what the process is. You know what you've been through, and you don't pay for it online. And until they done came through with it. But until you go through that for yourself, somebody asks you, how do I order pizza online? You don't know because it's different when you've been through it personally. You know what I mean? So once again, like when I think of myself, when I think of you and people like you, it's like I really become humble. You know, one of the reasons that I'm gonna do it, and we're gonna do another show on this again because I think there are a lot of stories out there, and I think there are a lot of people that by us sharing these experiences, you know, one thing you know, we hear in church a lot of this too, you know, tell the truth and shame the devil.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things I even had a conversation with our pastor several times, but we have to be, as Christians, as believers, I believe a lot of us, we have to be more transparent, you know, and don't get it twisted. Sometimes there is shame. There is shame. I never thought it would become a day where I'll be able to talk about me attempting suicide. Not alone less one time, but multiple different times. Like I never thought that I would be able to talk about something like that. But I realized that by me sharing those stories, you know, because we never know how people see us. But when I tell people that, they like, not you, man. Nah, bruh. Like, you got it together, man. You like a cool dude. Like, why would you want to do something like that? They don't believe it because how I come across or how they view me. So I think it's that much more important for us to share those things that God has delivered us from, that He's brought us out of, because there are people that are listening. There are people that are watching, whether they say something to you or not. I never forget meeting Hubert Davis that used to play for Carolina one year. And it was like, I'm a Tar Heel fan and I like the Knicks in basketball. So he played for both of them. But we were talking about we was at this camp and we were talking about salvation and ministry and things of that nature. And he told me this story about Patrick Ewing, how they played together for 5 years, but never had a conversation like off the court. And he went to a birthday party for one of the teammates, and I guess it was at a club or whatever. And he said, well, the first time that Patrick Ewing had a conversation with him, what he said was, "Yo, what you doing here, Hubert? Ain't you supposed to be one of those Christians?" Mm-hmm. And it was like, he said for him, it was kind of like mind-boggling because here it is. I didn't even know. I know we teammates, but I didn't know. He had no idea that he was watching them like that did. So a lot of times, it ain't always what we say. You know, we got to live the life before people. I have no problem talking about what God has delivered me from. You know what I mean? Because even though some of those things may be difficult to talk about, guess what? There's a reason that I'm still here. And if it can help somebody else, then to God be the glory. It ain't about me. It's not about my shame or my guilt, or I don't want people to look at me this way. And no, that's not what it's about. We have to give hope to one another. And I think by us being open, that's exactly what we do. Because there'll be people that you never know. You just never know. There's one day, hey, listen, sister, I just so happen to be rolling through Facebook one day, and what you sharing your testimony, it blessed my life. I never met you before, but it gave me hope for my daughter, that's out there and strung out. You know, I had lost hope for a while, but now hearing your story, yeah, I believe again. I done learned now I need to get back on my knees and give it to the Father because I can't do anything about it. You know what I mean? So I think it's a beautiful thing, and I really do appreciate you for your candidness, for being open and really being willing to do this. Because like I said, everybody, a lot of us, we're happy to be saved, but we don't want to be talking about what we've been saved from. And I think that's real pivotal. I think they need to go hand in hand. I think we could help the kingdom. I'm not talking religion. I'm not talking churches per se, individual churches. I'm talking about kingdom. I'm talking about kingdom work. We can help the kingdom by doing exactly that. So I really don't think I take it lightly. I truly appreciate it. I'm humbled that you took out the time to do this with us. And you talked about how you're a therapist and you're a counselor as well. If you don't mind, give the people some information on some of these things or some of the outlets and sources that they can use if they know family members that are going through, or they themselves are dealing with struggling issues and may want to stay anonymous, but they want to look into getting help.
Well, I have to give my daytime job. I work for the Alcohol Drug Council of North Carolina and serve as a coordinator for the state's women's programs. And so those women's programs are for women and children that are pregnant or parenting and dealing with the substance use disorder. So the telephone number is 1-800-688-4232. That's a state entity. It's free treatment if they meet the qualifications, and they're able to, some of them live in an apartment, some live in a house with other women, but they're wonderful programs. They can live there up to a year. And then for myself, I have a private practice. So I practice in Holly Springs at Denome Alliance. And my personal telephone number, they can just look me up online, just put my name in, Jude Johnson Hossler, and my practice will come up, the practice that I work in. And so I do outpatient counseling there, doing it right from home at this point via Zoom. And I see clients in the evening and on the weekends. So that's
now with the pandemic going on, do you find that challenging in itself? The online.
I'm gonna tell you, You have, as a therapist, you have to be real creative. You know, you got to bring your A game to, because I work with a lot of little kids. So I'm seeing kids 6 to 17 years old. I might have only 3 or 4 adults that I work with, but the rest are kids. And so you have to be creative. You have to deliver the message, and people are struggling right now. So you have to be able to deliver the message of counseling, but be able to do it via Zoom. And so, I mean, it's working well. I actually hope it doesn't go away. I love doing it. It would be nice if we can do a hybrid to do both.
Okay. That's what's up.
Yeah.
I like that. And thanks for the number. And what I'm gonna do is after the show is over, I'm gonna actually put those numbers in the comments if you guys want to actually use those numbers to contact or get in contact with Jude. You know, you can hit up on her page or whatever. But don't be ashamed or don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help.
Thank you.
Nobody is above help. And I thank you, like I said, I thank you for taking out the time to give us that information, all that there. I just had my cousin come in. What's up? What's good, man?
Good. I really, really, really enjoyed your guest tonight.
Thank you.
And yes, and the entire time I was on the phone trying to get work with my brother so that he can be able to join. And I truly believe it is nothing but Satan that has just tried to interfere, because he has a testimony. He has a testimony, and he got very frustrated to the point of trying to, I was trying to help him be able to get online, but it just didn't work out. But somehow, some way, you have to do this again, booby.
Yeah,
you know, to get him,
definitely.
and we're going to work it, because, and that's what I was just telling him. I was like, Kev, you got to calm down. I know that this is by purpose, and it's by design, you know, and that is the reason why. And we're not going to give up. So he got to be able to come on and give his testimony.
And either way, whether it's a day or last week, it don't matter. The devil is still and always will be alive. He will be defeated. You know, the message will get out there, because, like you said,
it's gonna get right.
It's a must, because
it is a must.
We are regular people that go through real life regular things. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, it's about that transparency.
Right.
It's about that transparency and being open. Because like I asked you to be on, because I was going to actually have you as a surprise guest after he shared his story, you know, to kind of tell him, you know, how it is. But guess what? Like I said, we're gonna make it happen again. Cam, don't even trip. We're gonna figure it out, and we're gonna do it again. But the word is gonna get out there, you know. But we are proud of you, man. I thank God for what he's done in your life, you know.
Yes.
Being you being big, cuz like I watched you, and I remember those days. You know, it wasn't easy to see. Like, it wasn't easy to go down on A Street and see a shell of the person that I love. You know what I mean? It's just totally different. Like, and to see how far you come now.
Yes.
The way God is, you just really let God work that thing out of your life, man. It's powerful, man. It's
so powerful. And that's why I wanted to come on here too, because, you know, just like how you said you witnessed that, I never knew. I'm his sister, and I never ever knew, you know. So to sit in him and hear stories that he went through and what he did, I never knew. And that's why it's so important. I believe, just like all of us, just like I heard your guest was saying that, you know, she was in the church. I truly believe it is hard to come in contact with Christ and not be the same. So them seeds is planted, and by purpose and design, their purpose is fulfilled. You know, it wasn't nothing but for her to be able to come from up under this addiction, as well as Kevin, you know?
No doubt.
So, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, powerful. So yeah. So we gotta have him, you gotta have him back on.
Yeah, we will. You still, even though we ain't here the backdrop, you know, if you want to, you can still give them some words.
Yeah, just like I said, you know, we went through school together, and people thought we was twins because we was so close. My mother had us so close in age. So I'm very, very close with him. I have 4 brothers and a sister, but I'm very close with Kevin. And that is what is so mind-boggling about it. You know what I'm saying? To be so close to him, but not close to him.
Because you were away, you were overseas at the time, right?
Right. Then because I left Newark like in 1980. So it wasn't, and for periods of time, like for 4 years, I didn't come back. I would just come back through there, but never did I witness that, nor see him like that. So to just even hear and see him now, the stories is what is, that took me. So I always tell Kevin that I'm just proud of him. And the key is listening to the voice of God, because you could keep denying that and stay on that path. Yeah. But God chases after us, and he chases after us, and he chases after us. So I am glad that Kevin is in the position that he is this day. Being a homeowner, like he was telling me, he had an apartment, and he got it padlocked. Like just to work to buy drugs. That was the only thing, and have your apartment padlocked, and to today to be a homeowner, Yeah, so I am very proud of Kevin. Very proud of Kevin.
No doubt, brother, because we love you, man, and we appreciate you, man. And even for the viewers, we about to wrap up soon, but the viewers, please, 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 if you have anything out there, or this episode has really blessed you and touched you, and you feel like whatever it is, you may want to share your story one day, contact me, because we living in an era where we, like you said earlier, Jude, we gotta be creative in this pandemic. You know what I mean? We have to be creative. Like a lot of people, truth of the matter is, a lot of people not gonna return to church buildings. A lot of people, there will be a new norm. So how do we still get the word out there? How do we still minister? How do we still affect and change lives in our own way, in our own little communities? And that's one of the ways that we want to do it. And I want to continue to use this show for that. I want to have good topics. I want to have fun. I want to have love. It might be some episodes where we might cry, but at the end of the day, I want to help people. So, like I said, if you have any testimonies that you want to share one day, contact me, and we'll get it together to where we can set that whole show up where we just gonna big each other up. It's gonna be a love fest, and we can talk about the greatness of God and what He's done for each and every one of us, man. It's really important. I think in these, we heard it all our lives. We living in the last days. And I'm sitting here like, y'all used to say that back in the 80s. It's 2020 now. But the older I get, I really do feel that, especially in the spiritual sense. Like, playtime is over. Like, we had enough fun. We had enough, we took long enough. Like I said, grace and mercy. I thank God that he waited on. You said it earlier. He chases us. I thank God, when we're talking about an almighty God, who am I that God would have to chase me? Like, when you think about it in terms, like, that's a whole nother love that we can't understand, because we quickly catch an attitude with each other. You know what? She ain't even speak to me, so I ain't even talking to her no more. God never has an attitude with us, and it's nothing like having that blessed assurance, knowing that you can always, always, always go to God. You don't have to be sober. You don't have to be clean. You don't have to have on a 3-piece suit. You know what I mean? God is always accessible. Only thing you have to do is make your heart available. You know what I'm saying? So in that, like I said, y'all get at me. We gonna wrap up. I want to thank my guests again. I want to thank Bev for coming on. Kev, we love you. Yeah, I make it on, but I'm still praying. I'm thankful that you would even want to do this. And like I said, we definitely gonna do it again, because I have someone that special in my life that he's actually the inspiration for this particular show or this particular topic, because I'm gonna wait for him to tell his story. I won't even put his name out there, but I'm gonna wait for him to tell his story. But I wanted him to know, like, you are one of my heroes, and I don't take that lightly, because I've seen your journey. I seen where you were and I see where you are now. Man, I love you. I'm super, super proud of you. And I really want you to get on here and tell the people about your story because, like I said, everybody's path is different, but he didn't necessarily go the church route, which is why it's that much more powerful to me because, you know, with our backgrounds, you know, that's the first thing that we automatically think to do. Let me go to the altar and give it to Christ. Like I seen somebody that clean themselves up, you know what I mean, and allow God to work things out in their life without going the church route. But had a made up mind, you know what, I'm changing my life. And now is a counselor. Now is doing his thing. Like, I'm super, super proud of you, man. So we're gonna definitely make that happen.
Yes.
You know, and we're gonna get you on here so you can share your story because it's a blessing. And I think that it'll really help people. So even and we closing out, you know, for you guys that are watching, I want y'all to do something for me. We all drugs touches all of our lives. All of our lives. Whether we know somebody personally, we got a cousin, we got a neighbor, we got somebody that's impacted by drugs. And if you would, I want you to really pray for them. And not just pray for them, but everybody that can hear me right now, everybody that hear my voice, pray and ask God for you. Because you giving up, you being done, who said that God don't want to use you as that vessel to bring about the difference in their life? But because you and your feelings, because you have your issues or whatever the case may be, you close that door down. I done tried time and time again. They not robbing me no more. I'm not bailing nobody back out of jail. You know, we go through all of this here, and it is natural. But let's say hypothetically that you are the vessel for changing that individual's life if you would allow God to work on you. So if y'all can't do that favor for me. You know, ask God what way is that I can help the ones that I care about. You know, how can I help and how can I contribute in getting them back together, getting them back and letting them know that no matter what, hell or high water, I love you. Like all my uncles and growing up, I used to be ashamed of them. I'm sad to say it, but I really used to be ashamed of my uncles because they were alcoholics. I didn't want nobody to meet them. I didn't want no friends come over, nothing like that did. And as I became like a you know, later on my teens and became a man, it was like, I remember coming down here. My grandfather had his leg amputated. And I brought my girlfriend down at the time. And my uncles, they were around the house playing cards and whatnot. But they shared some stuff with me. And I'm like, yo, you's the biggest idiot ever. Because these dudes love you. And here it is, you ashamed of them for something that has nothing at all to do with you. You see what I'm saying? So it took me personally going through that to say, you know what? Nowadays, I don't care whether you're homosexual. If I love you, I love you. I don't have to necessarily agree with your lifestyle, but if I love you, I love you. I'm not going to stop loving you because of choices that you make. If you're alcoholic, the love don't change. I'm going to still be there for you. I might not buy you no fifth or nothing, but I'm still here for you. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to always be there for you because we all need somebody. You know, I tell my boys, the only thing that you can do in this world by yourself is be lonely. We all need each other. So if you can, do that for me. You know, ask God, whatever it is that I'm lacking, whatever area it is, or whatever it is that I need, because I don't know specifically what it is that I do need, but whatever it is, Father, I ask that you will provide it for me so that I can be that vessel for change that you desire for me to be. Having said that, I want to thank you guys for your time. I want to thank you for tuning in. I'm gonna get that information to get in contact with Jude. Once again, I love you. I appreciate you. Keep on telling your testimony, sister, because it's a blessing. And once again, like I say, if you don't know anything else, know that when Marv see you, that's the first thing I think. God, I thank you that she don't look like what she's been through. Having said that, know that I love y'all as usual. DeAndre and Lysha, Daddy loves you unconditionally, but I also love you unintentionally. Till next week. Peace.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.